Man, I love that skit from Bon Kui Kui. But on a serious note, are you concerned with how to secure your cryptocurrency and your growing crypto bags in 2021? Well, in this video, we're going to discuss what you can do to make sure that your cryptocurrencies are safe and secure. Now, I originally received this idea from Jordan at Conquer Trading and Investing. He actually received a question on one of his videos with someone asking about device security, and they had this experience. Now, I kind of broke their question down into some bullet points so that we can discuss these bullet points, and I'm going to go through and discuss the answers to these bullet points, and then we're going to go and discuss how we can secure both exchanges and different types of wallets that you may choose to use. We're also going to discuss the ledger data breach, what that means, and what, if you have a ledger, what you can do to protect yourself. So in this question, the first bullet point that was brought up here was, I had someone attempt to steal my phone number today. So first thing, most sites by default will have you turn on two-factor authentication using SMS text, simple text messaging. That is okay for very low security two-factor authentication, but it is highly susceptible to this exact type of thing. So it's highly recommended, first of all, that you do not use your phone number or text messaging for your two-factor security. That really isn't true two-factor. You need another device for your two-factor authentication. And then the question goes on to say that I'm thinking it's from the ledger data breach. Now, as far as the ledger data breach, a lot of personal information was classified, information that you may have chosen to provide to Ledger but from what we've been told so far, no critical account information was shared. Only information was lost. Only information that can be used in phishing attempts really was lost. So mostly it's your personal information, such as your name and your email address, and maybe some additional information like phone numbers. I don't know if Ledger ever asked for social security numbers, so if as they say in this bullet point here, they had a fake ID and last four of my social, I don't know that they got the social from the Ledger hack. But what was compromised was just your personal information, so information about you, that then these attackers and hackers can use on phishing attempts, and they can try to gain access to your account. So the first thing that you need to do is be very careful when you see any emails from anything that looks like it might be from Ledger. Validate it really is from Ledger and not from a spoof source. Secondly, never give away your seed phrase. If there's going to be lots of ransomware attacks where attackers are claiming to have access to your account and they want you to also pay them to get that account back, do not pay attackers because it's probably fake. But the main thing is, do not give away your seed phrase. This is a common thing that I think has been coming up as people they're saying that, oh, your account's been compromised. In order for us to lock down your account properly, we need your seed phrase. Do not supply your seed phrase, and do not pay anybody any money if it looks like they're telling you that they've compromised your account, but they don't have any proof that they actually have. Now, this next bullet point. I usually keep my stuff on Coinbase and use Google Auth, but this freaked me out. Well, using Google Auth as a second factor authentication is irrelevant of your phone number. So if your phone number gets stolen, your application that's running on your device is attached to that phone and that device itself, and maybe there can be the ability to compromise that if somebody had access to your Apple or your Google account, whatever ecosystem you're on. But even that would require that you manually went and set up a backup, and you would see that pop up on your phone that somebody's trying to back up, and you need to provide the ability for them to sync with your existing two-factor. In short, somebody stealing your phone number is not going to compromise your software, Google, or Authy two-factor authentication. And they go on to say here, I ended up selling and putting it back in my bank for now. And that's what they did. But, we're going to try to make sure that you guys understand what you can do to not have to take those type of steps. The next bullet point here is, I wanted to see if there's a better way I should store my stuff. So, yes, there is a better way than keeping your funds on an exchange. That's called a custodial service, where they have custody of your funds. If you have anything more than a very small amount, it's best to pull that off and place it in your own self-custody storage. We'll get into that later. Should I be using a separate phone that has my Google Auth, or should I be using a ledger? Okay, so you don't need a separate phone. Again, if your phone number gets compromised, your Google Auth is not necessarily compromised. Now, if you're using text message or SMS for two-factor authentication and your phone number is compromised, then yes, they can intercept that authentication, and that's the problem. But the app itself is not going to be compromised. And then you can use a ledger or a Trezor device as a two-factor device as well. So recently, the FIDO Alliance, or Fast Identity Online Alliance, published a new universal second-factor authentication method where you can use this is for hardware devices, and what it does is it helps prevent things like man-in-the-middle attacks, phishing, or especially keyloggers on a device. Now, this last bullet point is going to get us talking about what hardware wallets actually are. So the bullet point here is, I have a ledger, but worried I might miss an update or something and lose everything. Okay, so let me quickly explain what a hardware wallet is. You're not actually storing anything other than your private key on your hardware wallet. And what a hardware wallet, specifically a Trezor or a ledger, does, how it acts, is it doesn't have, you can't install any additional software on it other than the official updates from the manufacturer. So there's little to no risk of a third-party piece of software infecting your device. And this device stores your private key. And so what happens is, if you want to send money or authorize a transaction, sign any sort of transaction on any sort of blockchain, the hardware wallet will publish or produce a signature that is used to sign that transaction. And it uses that private key to one-way asymmetric signing to sign that one way. So it's a one-way signature. Now, previously I've done a video on hardware wallets, and I describe exactly what this private key is and how it works as simply as I can in that, so I will link that video for you here. That's a good one to watch to get a better understanding. And that'll walk you through all the different wallet types, your exchanges, and so forth. But here we're going to focus on how to secure these wallets. And to help us with that, I found a couple of good online resources. This one from PC Magazine on how to keep your Bitcoin safe. And they make a few very simple recommendations here. First, protect your online wallet, which would be money that you have on like a Coinbase or a Gemini. Now note this statement here: anyone with your email and password can access and steal your coins, and bad actors can accomplish this with something as simple as a phishing email. So if all you do is go online and set up a username and password to log in and you have an email account, anyone who compromises your email account or gains or learns your login credentials will be able to steal your funds. So that's obviously a problem. So the main thing that you can do to secure these online exchanges is to enable two-factor authentication, and do not, as it says here, use your phone for two-factor authentication for the reasons that we outlined before. Now, I also pulled up this article because they have a recommendation here to use a separate email for your Bitcoin wallet, which is also a good idea. The reason for that is, the more services that you use with your main wallet or main email address, the more likely it is for attackers to learn your identity and send you phishing information. So sometimes phishing attacks may not be targeted. So with a ledger attack, the problem with that really is that attackers know that everybody who was hacked by the ledger breach, they own some cryptocurrency because they probably bought a ledger and had signed up for an account. And so they're a target for phishing attacks related to cryptocurrency. And namely, now that the attackers know that they had a ledger device, they can also further target them by making their emails look like they came from ledger. But, if your account was compromised by any other site and you happen to be just browsing the web and maybe buying something on some other site somewhere, they can still broadly target every email account that they attack with a cryptocurrency phishing attempt, just to see if maybe you have cryptocurrency. So if you use a dedicated email address for your Bitcoin wallet, then it reduces that threat surface. And it may also be easier to weed out phishing attempts versus valid attempts with a lower volume of messages. And this has its own downsides too. Having too many email addresses can be a problem, and losing access to an email address could also be a risk. So weigh that risk accordingly. And this, of course, talks about using an offline wallet, which typically would be a hardware wallet. Now, you can do offline wallets other ways. You can have a dedicated offline machine, or you can do paper wallets. and then there's software wallets like applications on your phone. And my video on wallets explains all of these different types of wallets. Now, one thing this article did not mention that I think is a significant factor is whitelisting of withdrawal addresses. So on a lot of services, you can whitelist the addresses that you're allowed to withdraw funds to, and it's a 7-day lock period. So it takes 7 days to approve a new wallet address to be able to send funds to. And this can be a bit of a pain when you first get it all set up, but once you've got it all established and set up and all of your major services, you have your wallet addresses whitelisted across all of your major services, it's not that big of a deal, but it takes a little bit of setting up. Now, one of the services that has, I think, the best security for an online exchange is Gemini. And as you can see here, and this is what Gemini, I recommend all new cryptocurrency investors to start by using Gemini, because for two reasons. One, it's a simple service, and it's highly regulated, and they are also highly secure, and they're also very convenient to use. It's easy to use ACH transfers or whatever else you want to use to get funds onto the service. It's not quite as simple as maybe Crypto.com or Coinbase, their mobile application, and Gemini does have a mobile application. I also recommend that everybody, when you do sign up for Gemini, send your funds via the ACH transfer and then email Gemini support to set up what's called Active Trader, which will give you a much lower fees. But nonetheless, I recommend everybody use Gemini for their first, because you can store a reasonable amount of cryptocurrency on Gemini and feel safe about it, because as you can see here listed under the security, so I'm on Gemini.com/security, and they say Gemini has operated a security-first mentality from day one. Our security philosophy adheres to 3 principles: defend against external threats, protect against human error, and guard against misuse of insider access. So they just have a really good sense of security as far as I can tell, and basically everything that I see that they do is really good security practice that I would have employed as a technology professional a lot of the places I've been. And I've been in some very high security, worked in some very high security companies. Now here under account security on Gemini, again, they recommend 2-factor authentications. They also support these hardware security keys that we talked about a bit ago with this FIDO Alliance, WebAuth, and you can use your Trezor Model T specifically as a device that can actually be the FIDO device instead of having to buy like a YubiKey or some other piece of hardware as well if you'd like. But you can also get a YubiKey or some other physical device. I just want to show Trezor's website real fast. Trezor, you can use this FIDO2 with a Trezor Model T, and this will give you additional security if you decide to use your Trezor device with this FIDO multi-factor authentication capability, which is supported on Gemini. And you can see here, FIDO2 works with supported online services or platform that allows the user to set the Model T as their FIDO security key. All you need to do is enable FIDO2 and set your Model T as the FIDO security key in the online service you wish to use. So that's that hardware security key. Here's the whitelist I talked about. You can create approved lists or approved addresses that restrict your crypto withdrawals to approved addresses only, or disables all crypto withdrawals from your account. Which, when you first set up your account, I would recommend that you just simply enable this and don't have any withdrawal addresses in your account. That way the funds can't be transferred out of your account without a 7-day wait period if an attacker did get access to your Gemini account. They would have to go and create a new approved address and wait 7 days before they could withdraw your account. This gives you 7 days to notice that. Now, something to keep in mind, this is not a catch-all. This will not protect you in every scenario. So don't think that you can just go and sign in and use the basic 2-factor and do an approved address and you're totally secure. Because what attackers can do, especially if they gain access to your email or your devices somehow, so if they can intercept your text messages, if they have access to your phone, for example, your phone number, or if they have access to your email, they can intercept your email, and they can delete or prevent you from ever seeing the email that said that a new address was added on Gemini. Now, the attacker still has to wait 7 days, but if you don't know that they've added that, then your funds can vanish 7 days after they've added it, and you won't have anything. You won't have any a way to prevent that. So this is an added layer of security. This is not an end-all be-all, but it is a nice way, an additional layer of security to make sure that somebody can't gain access to your account and withdraw your funds within minutes of accessing or compromising one of your devices. And they have some rate limiting on authorization attempts and hashing and salt your passwords and so forth. All best practice. Again, and Gemini, I just want to highlight this about Gemini, is a New York trust company that's regulated by the New York Department of Finance, and they've achieved several security certifications here. Now, the other useful resource I want to bring up is just bitcoin.org, and there's a secure your wallet. And they just note right here up top, you should be wary of any service designated to store your money online. Many such exchanges and wallets have suffered security breaches in the past. They recommend that you store the majority of your Bitcoin in a secure location and only have a small amount on a hot wallet, which is a good idea. Now, so if you have a mobile device and you do actually want to use some sort of cryptocurrency for everyday transactions, then you can have a hot wallet, a mobile wallet on your device. It's very convenient, a small amount of money that if it ever gets lost, it's not the end of the world. Also, if you're actively trading, this is exactly what I do. I keep the majority of my funds secured in multiple places, and then I put a portion of it on different exchanges so that I can actively trade. What's really nice about like Kraken, for example, or leverage trading is that I can keep a smaller portion of my account balance and use leverage. And the reason I really use leverage is not so much to gain, a larger position quicker or to make more, It's really so that I have less exposure on the exchange with the funds I have stored on the exchange. Now, another really important thing for us to talk about, none of these other resources have talked about it, but this bitcoin.org one talks about a lot, is backing up your wallet. So I'm just going to, since we're at 16 minutes here, I want to try to wrap this video up. It's getting pretty long. I'm going to put a link to this article and everything else that I've discussed here in the description. I want you guys to do your homework and read through how to back up your wallet properly, because the truth is more crypto funds, namely Bitcoin, have been lost due to lost wallets than have been lost due to compromises from hackers. So at the end of the day, locking down your account and making it harder for you to access it, for attackers to access it is great, but it's also making it harder for you to access it, and it does put some risk of losing the access to some of these accounts. So having a good, proper, and secure backup is really, really important. And the most important thing to have backed up, though, is if you're using a hardware wallet, is that seed phrase. And never, ever take a picture of it or store it digitally anywhere. You might also be careful not to even write it down in front of a webcam, because if your device is compromised and somebody can actually record you, this is a possible threat. So you want to make sure that when you write down a new seed phrase, you do so not in front of a camera where there's never been a digital version of it. Do not take a picture of it with your phone. Don't take screenshots of it, things like that. Write it down on paper and store it in multiple locations. So make a copy of it right away and have it stored in a couple of secure physical locations. The seed phrase is the most important thing that you need to make sure that you have a backup of. And they go on here to talk about encrypting your wallet, using strong passwords, offline wallets, hardware wallets. Now, I do want to circle back around on this keeping your software up to date. One of the questions posed earlier was, I'm afraid I'm going to miss an update and lose everything. So as long as your hardware wallet is not connected to anything, your private key is safe, and you don't need to worry about updating your hardware wallet until the next time you want to use it. Now, I personally maintain multiple hardware wallets, and what I will do before any major upgrade is I will actually transfer funds from one hardware wallet to another stable hardware wallet before I do any upgrades. Another layer of security that I do is I occasionally wipe out one of my devices and start it all over again with a brand new seed phrase and then move funds back to it. But I keep my funds spread across multiple hardware wallets personally. They're really not that expensive, and it's nice having a couple anyway, at least two, so that you can move your funds to one hardware wallet if you're going to make a major update to another one, the actual firmware on the device. Now, the hot wallet, it's not really a hot wallet. The front end, there's a front end application that is used on top of your wallet, and you can have multiple wallets or front ends that work with your hardware wallet. Those can be updated as updates roll out, and they're just software. It's usually a piece of software on your computer, or maybe like Treasure Suite would be one, or the Ledger equivalent. A lot of times people just use the web browser for the front end for their wallet too, which is fine. And that stays updated obviously automatically. But updating that is not a big deal. Now also, if your device if you are in the middle of an update and your device does not come back to life, like if the update fails, you can still restore your funds with the seed phrase. But personally for me, I don't like ever having to put my seed phrase in, or as few times as possible put my seed phrase in, because depending on the nature of how you're doing that, if you have a keylogger on your device and you have to restore your seed phrase, it can be stolen that way. So the less you make use of your seed phrase, the better off you are. And lastly, let's circle back around to the Ledger hack. This is Ledger's blog on 6 ways to face the data breach. This is their blog they put out after they disclosed that they had been hacked. This is a good resource for those of you who have Ledgers. Now, Ledger was technically hacked and you may have lost some trust in them. What was actually hacked, I just want to make this also clear. Ledger used, I believe, Shopify or some of the front-end service for the front-end part of the web service part of it and for the e-commerce site. However, the hardware wallets are still totally secure. There's been no compromise to the actual hardware wallets, so your funds are safe as long as they're still stored on your hardware wallet. Now, through phishing attempts and everything else, people can try to gain access to that, but they don't currently have access to it just from the Ledger attack or hack. So they outline 6 key things. First of all, stay calm, and they highlight what I just said. Under no circumstances affects the security of your device. They say the same thing I said earlier. Never share your 24-word seed phrase. They go through if anything else has been compromised, be sure to change your credentials. So yes, quickly change credentials and then add 2-factor authentication if it wasn't already enabled. As I said earlier, they say the same thing. Never pay your ransom. As they say here, scammers will try to make the least possible effort to steal money. So if they can make you feel threatened, that you're physically in danger, even though you're not, they can get you to turn over some things, right? So, as they say here, scammers have reached a new low. We're appalled to find that some of you are being personally threatened. And they say, of course, if you feel that you are in physical danger, then make sure to call your local authorities. Almost never is this the case that somebody's physically going to come and harm you, because they likely don't have all that information about you. But if they do, it's something to be aware of. So I suppose I should be cognizant to say that, if you feel like you had a reasonable amount of cryptocurrency and someone might physically harm you, then of course contact your authorities right away. They also outline here this ability to have basically multi-tiers of your wallet accessible, an added layer of protection of having an additional passphrase. And so this is great if you ever are the victim of physical extortion. And I'm just going to read this part. It says that this results in having 2 recovery phrases. One will unlock the normal set of accounts. The second will generate a new seed phrase and will unlock an alternative set of accounts with another set of private keys and addresses. Therefore, the point is, if you were ever asked under pressure to open and empty your hardware wallet, you could use your first code showing the account with minimal assets, therefore limiting the financial damage on your side. So any sort of extortionist could make off with a small portion of your funds and not the main part of your funds. And they actually have a blog post from 2019 about that, Ledger 101 Part 4 Advanced Security Principles. They talk about plausible deniability and resilient backups. I will link this in the video description below as well. They also encourage you to have distributed backups. This is also a really good idea to break up your passphrase in such a way that you store it actually in 3 locations and you need access to 2 of 3 locations to recover the full seed phrase. That way, if in a physical attack, if somebody were to break into your house and steal, say, a lockbox, they wouldn't have your full seed phrase. They would have 2/3 of the seed phrase. So another really good idea there as well. And back to the theme that backups are equally as important as your account security. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you find this video useful. Again, this is Brandon with Crypto Trades and Tech. If you like the content, please consider a like and subscribe. I have a series of additional videos coming out. Namely, we're going to do a deep dive on one of the altcoins I've been doing more in-depth research on, Polkadot. I'm probably going to do a video here shortly on how to get into cryptocurrency mining, what's all entailed there, what that's all about. And also, please feel free to join me on my live streams. I do live stream regularly Sunday night to get a preview of the market for the next week. We focus on that session on Forex and crypto. And then Friday afternoons, I do more of an educational series. We have a topic. The next one coming up will be Cryptocurrency 101. We're going to be actually walking through the original Satoshi white paper and explaining what blockchains really are from the ground up. So feel free to join us again on Friday afternoons and Sunday nights. Thank you all again.